Hello, so I thought I'd make a video on bell spins because I've been playing with them quite a bit recently and there's not much content on YouTube for them. A lot of these tricks I can't do very consistently yet, but I find that making a video of them helps me understand them better, and hopefully there'll be people that enjoy attempting these tricks, having things to work towards. So for getting into them, I'd recommend starting like this, and then you take one stick away and then trying to get it to spin like that. It's quite difficult when you're learning. It kind of feels like you're basically just resisting the pull of the flower stick. There's a slight up and down motion to keep the momentum going, but yeah. So that's your inward one. So you can do inward on the right hand, and then you can do inward on the left hand. So in the beginning you'll want to do a lot of trilling, trying to get as many repetitions as possible of each of them. And then for your outward one, so one way of getting into it is like this. So you're doing kind of a slide throw and then catching it. So it's like throwing it this way and then catching under here, so then it goes into an outward spin, and then same on the left hand. Or another way, which might be easier, is to do like a flip flop, catch it on the outside there and then spin this way. So in the beginning you want to drill each of the 4 bell spins, so inward and outward on both hands. Okay, so when I was learning bell spins, I found that doing it faster seemed to actually make it work better. So if I did it really gently, then it kind of loses tension. It kind of needs that sort of centrifugal force to keep it locked against the stick. So once you're comfortable with them, you can learn to control the speed to a degree, but you see this is going fast, and then this is going slow, but the slowest speed it can go is actually fairly quick still. You want, usually I'd say when it falls off, it's often because it's going too slow and it loses tension. But it's not always the case, but it's often true. So another important aspect of bell spins is how far along the stick it is when it's spinning. So I tend to hold my stick around there, and then I'd feel most comfortable spinning it about there, so it's kind of the halfway point of the stick. And then when you're learning, you're probably experiencing it sliding along the stick without you intending it to do that. But over time you can learn to control it so it stays in the same place, or you can beyond that choose to make it intentionally slide towards you or away from you, so you're fixing it. So it tends to be kind of if I point my stick downwards, then it will slide away from me, and then if I point it upwards like this, then it will slide towards me. But it's also about the up and down motion as to how that momentum is affecting it. So I think if you're not doing it perfectly vertically, then that can make it slide. So if I was doing this, so moving towards me as I lift up, and then away from me as I lift up, and then towards me as I lift down, or the opposite, so I'm pulling it towards me as I lift up and then away as I go down, even if it's subtle, that will have an effect on how it slides along. But use a drill, you can practice once intentionally making it slide away from you, and then try to make it slide back towards you again. But it can be quite tricky. And then once you've got them well, you can start doing transitions between different ones. So say we're in an inward bell spin on my right hand, then I can go like that, and then so I'm kind of momentarily coming through this position where it's on both sticks, and then releasing this hand and doing inward on this side. So then we've got bell spin where it's yeah, then you can you do as many bell spins as you want between the transitions, or you can just do like continuous like this where you're switching on every rotation. So, and in terms of the variables, so that's switching direction each time. I mean they're both inward, but you know it's going, from my perspective, it's going like anti-clockwise and then clockwise, anti-clockwise, clockwise. An important thing to mention for these passes is that in terms of where you want to look, like with a propeller, you would tend to look like at the middle of the spinning stick, whereas with a bell spin pass, it helps to look at the outer end that's spinning around, that's like orbiting, because the sooner you look at it when you do your pass, the more time you'll have to see it coming in and kind of catch it with the other stick. Whereas if you're looking at the center and you only look at it at the last minute, you know, then you're going to be less likely to catch it. And then you can do like this, so we're switching direction each time, but it's staying on the same stick rather than going between sticks. And then yeah, it's the same again. You can do multiple rotations before you switch, or you can just continually switch on each rotation. And then yeah, so this thing of like here it's coming down onto your stick, so that allows you to catch it for the inwards ones. But if you're going outward, then if you're going outward, then it's coming up on the bottom, so that doesn't work, that transfer, when it's going in the other direction. So what you have to do instead is to do that kind of throw, so it's kind of like an anti-spin throw. So future Felix disagreeing with past Felix here. So what I said before was that that you have to do this transition for your outwards bell spin that switches between sticks, but actually you can do this other one, which is, so it's basically coming around like this, and it's true that you can't catch it on the bottom, but what you can do is you can kind of pendulum the bell spin and then catch it underneath here, and then after you've caught it, you'll be inwards. You've got to switch to outward again if you want to do it again. So let's see if we can loop that. So that's another option. So as it swings in, you can catch it from underneath, but that requires you to do kind of a pendulum with the stick, because if the momentum's just like spinning like this, then you can't catch it underneath. You know, you have to have it to stop in order to be able to do that transfer. So you combine both transitions together, so you can be doing like this one and then transfer to the other stick and then going to that on the other stick. So you could do like that and then like that. And then you have like a looping pattern where you're going through each of the 4 bell spins. Right, and then so we've done ones where it changes direction and stays on the same stick, and then also changes direction and goes to the other stick. We haven't done ones where it keeps on going in the same direction. So first of all, we have this one, which is like a no beat throw in poi, where you're taking your stick away momentarily and then putting it back in again. So your flow stick is just kind of like floating vertically for a moment, and your stick comes out and then back in. And you can do the same kind of thing, except you're transferring sticks. So like that, and you get back again. And then we can add extra rotation. So like, let's say this one is doing kind of a half flip. You could add a bit of extra spin on each throw. Say for this transition, try and add more spin to that, or this one. Let's try and add more spin to that one. Right, let's do the same stick continuing in the same direction with extra spin. So it's quite tricky. You gotta get like just the right throw so that you can keep the momentum going. There we go. So yeah, those are the three variables, like main ones. Whether you're staying on the same stick, whether you're changing direction or staying in the same direction, and the amount of spin that it's doing between each transfer. So I used to do it like that. So I would try and catch it when it's vertical. So like, and then catch here. But I find it's actually better if you give it a bit more force, so it's horizontal when you catch it. So it essentially swings here, kind of isolates around this point, and then kind of sort of isolates around this point, and then you catch it here. And then if you want to do that throw to the other stick, it should basically just be a matter of putting the other stick there, you know, when you catch it. Like that. And then next you have these kind of like bell spin floats. Yeah, so I would start just using both hand sticks like that. So you're doing kind of, yeah, I guess if you take this kind of pendulum thing and then you try and extend it up, so you're having it do like a float, so like you do in poi. So having it try and be horizontal as it's like going up. And that float gives you the time, because like bell spin kind of theory, in order for it to stay stuck on the stick, like if it's in this orientation, then it needs to spin this way. If you try and spin it this way, it's just going to fall off. So it's kind of like this bit is sort of a tail, so it's like traveling in the direction that the stick is on, like the side that the stick's on. If that makes sense. So if it's like this, it goes this way, and then if it's on this side, it has to go the other way. Which means with your, same applies to the pendulum things, so when you do a float here, in order for it to go back the other way, you have to bring the stick around here, and then that allows you to swing the other way. And then on every pendulum, you have to try and bring your stick around in a loop. It's going to take a bit of practice, but it's good fun once you get the hang of it. But there's also this one where you do a pendulum and then you do kind of a slide throw, so you're catching the other end of the stick. Okay, so there's this move which is kind of related to this pendulum float thing. So what you're doing is, it comes up here, and then instead of using the same stick, you're doing a transfer and catching it here behind your back, and then bringing it across. So let's see if we can get that to work. Okay, so another thing to think about is how to transition between your regular moves and your bell spins. So first of all, if we start with a tick-tock, so from there you can catch it on the end and then do a bell spin, as many as you want, and then get back into your tick-tock. I find that if we do it in slow motion, so after you catch it, if it comes round and you wait for it to come all the way around and then hit it, then it ends up being a very like fast transition where you have to push it really quick. It's quite sort of aggressive and like can be a bit out of control. But to make it so it's more controlled, I'd say as it comes around, like when it's horizontal, if you push it up, then that gives it some lift and allows it to be a bit slower. Bell spin, push up, and then back to tick-tock. Bell spin, up. You see, and then that's a bit more controlled than doing that. And then, I mean, flip-flop, you know, it's already quite similar, this one, compared to like the bell spin like this. It's like pretty much the same thing. Just where you're catching it on the stick. And then propeller is a good one, so you can do that. So in slow motion, if I'm doing propeller, you can, if you time it right, you can just slide your stick out here and catch the end, and then switch to doing a bell spin in the other direction. But there's another option, which is to, like, rather than keeping it on the same side of the stick, to switch your stick and catch it on the opposite side. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, I think that's how you do it. And then yeah, so that's an outward propeller. And then you can do the same for inward propeller. And then you go from your bell spin back into a propeller. And then, yeah, I mean, floor plane bell spins are technically possible. Oh, fuck. Floor plane, oh, fuck's sake. Floor plane bell spins are possible, but they're a lot more risky because if you go flying off and hit people a lot more easily. Yeah, mine. It would take a lot of drilling to get real confident with your floor plane bell spins, but okay, so you could try from other things like this half spin propeller. Another thing I didn't show earlier is another entry into your normal bell spins is to go cross arm like that, and that allows you to do a outward one rather than inward. And then yeah, I mean you could play with like trying to go from a fishtails to a bell spin. And then I'm not very good at forward fishtails, but then you could go into that after you switch direction. And then you can play with like different, with like transitioning into contact stuff. So maybe bell spin like that, and then try and roll across my neck and stuff like that, or over my leg and whatnot. Very good. So for contact rolls, so for the most basic one, I would do this. So you have one stick that's static, and so it does a bell spin, rolls over your stick, and then you catch it again on the same stick. So it's like bell spin around here, rolls over here, and then you're aiming to catch it under here again. And then the next step is to replace the stick with your arm. So you're doing a bell spin and then rolling it over your arm and then trying to catch under here again. And then you can do it over a folded arm like you would for a conveyor belt. And you can play with like trying to do bell spins like under your leg here and stuff, and then see if you can do transitions whilst under your leg. And you can play with, rather than like catching it horizontally like that, you can also kind of catch it vertically like this. which is good for when you're doing like under the leg bell spin catches. Nice. That's a different move, but it's an under the leg catch where I'm staying spinning in the same direction rather than changing direction. And yeah, similar to propeller, you can play with like, once you've got bell spin going, trying to turn your body to the side and then eventually do it behind your back, and then you can turn the other direction like this, and if it, or you have it like out in front like a buzzsaw, and a bit scary. Check this out, I just realised this is possible. Another cool one you can do is an over the shoulder bell spin. So you can start like this with both your sticks over your shoulder and then take one away. And then like that. I don't think I've shown this one, so you can do kind of a bell spin in a waist wrap type position here. That's cool entry, isn't it? Alright, and then another bell spin concept I was playing with. So for example, if we take this move, so you can do it quite tight, you know, so your sticks are staying like one stick length away from each other. But then you can also kind of like make it more side to side, so you're kind of like expanding it out and making it more of a throw. And you can apply that same concept to other bell spin patterns potentially. Alright, here's another move for you. So if you think like this sort of a thing, but I'm doing a catch behind my back here, and then after I catch it, bringing it out from behind my back, so like that. Okay, so another move. So for the single stick ones where it's changing direction, so it would normally be like this, but you can also do this where it's like an anti-spin throw, so your stick kind of moves across each time. So here my stick pretty much stays in the same spot, but if I make it an anti-spin throw, then I'm moving across. Okay, here's a tricky one. So if we start with this chicken wing move like this. So we're in this position, but resting like on the stick and here. So the idea is that you have the stick fall off, and then as it falls off, it comes here and you catch it on the pinky side to do a bell spin there. So let's see if we can get that. So I was just figuring out cross arm bell spin stuff. So with your normal one, like not cross arm, so doing this thing is inward bell spins. If you go cross arm, then this is technically outward bell spins. So it kind of it's the opposite. And then similarly, this is using so when you do your anti-spin throws, that's using outward bell spins, but then when you're cross arm, again it's the opposite. So so when I'm cross arm, these are now inward bell spins rather than outward bell spins for the anti-spin throw. And then you can also play with switching which way your arms are crossed. So first of this, so you do a bell spin and your arm travels around in the same direction, like to get the same with the flower stick, and you can like extend your arm out in an extension and bring it back in to make it more dramatic, if you like. And then there's the other one, which is to have your arm go in the opposite direction of the flower stick. And then there was one I was playing with, like, oh yeah, so another advanced thing is to try and do like figure of 8 bell spins. So in order to bring it over to the other side, you have to bring it around like this. And it's coming back again. You have to go around like that. There we go. I got one. So for bell spins, I've tried like doing a linear extension before, which seems like extremely hard. So I thought that, the extensions would be practically impossible, because I thought you'd want to do linear extensions first and then progress to doing extensions after that. But surprisingly, they actually work. Like, it seems like bell spin extension is actually easier than a bell spin linear extension, because it's like a continuous circle, whereas with a linear extension there's like kind of a sudden direction change, you know, so it's like kind of more smooth, the momentum. But yeah, still getting the hang of them, but they're pretty cool. And then you can also do bell spin extension pirouette. So So as well as bell spin extensions, it can also be good to practice like smaller circles, doing different amounts of different size circles with your stick, and then that can allow you to do in-spin flowers in theory. So here I'm doing kind of a 2-petal in-spin, so I'm doing an extension but then pausing on the right and on the left and trying to draw a little circle. And then in theory anti-spin flowers should be possible. I guess they're not too hard because I can do that. Yeah. Nice. Okay, something I realised with floor plane bell spins is that you don't have to do them fast. It's possible to do slow floor plane bell spins. So like this, you see it's like vertical, it's barely spinning. You don't have to do it really fast like that. So then there's some cool moves that come from that, so you can do that, so it's kind of like doing a pendulum around your head, or you can do it more circularly. And then if you wanted to do a slow floor plane bell spin down low, then you can try and do it like that, but it's a bit awkward. I feel like it's more natural to do it with the pinky side of the stick. So that looks something like this. So it's also possible to do floor plane bell spins with the stick pointing down, but it's quite tricky. But it seems to gradually slide down. Hard to keep it on there. So it's possible to do bell spin isolations, so it's similar to a poi isolation, where we're attempting to keep the center point still and having our hand orbit around the center point. So it should look something like this. I tend to do fairly small circles, so it's kind of isolating about around a point like here. But with enough practice, then you can probably get more of a full circle where you're isolating more around the center point, like like here. And then you would want to practice your transitions between normal bell spins and the isolated bell spins, but it's quite tricky. Isolated bell spins in general often goes into a propeller when you mess up. Okay, so I was thinking about bell spins and why they seem to only work in one direction. So what I think the reason is that as it's spinning, it's the stick is essentially rolling along this way, and then it slides back into place. So that's kind of happening, like, you know, constantly, that the stick is rolling towards the center and then it's sliding back, you know, on like a microscopic level. Whereas if you try and spin the other way, the stick is rolling this way, and that makes it slip out almost immediately. I was thinking, in theory, if you were to move the stick at the same speed, like if you were to like twist it in your fingers at the same speed as the stick is moving, then in theory that could work. Like, but you'd have to be really bloody good at it because it doesn't seem to work very well. So if you watch this, you see I can take away the stick, so I can do it in the wrong direction for part of a circle but not a full circle, unless I do a pirouette. So you see that? There I was doing a bell spin pirouette in the wrong direction, in the sense that the stick is like on this side. Normally you would have to have it on this side to do a bell spin in this direction. But if you're doing a pirouette, then what's happening is the stick is staying still relative to the head, and that's why it works, because, you know, relative to the thing, the stick isn't moving because you're turning with it, and it's just staying locked in place, you know. Whereas with a normal bell spin, the stick stays still, but the thing is going around it, you know, it's like relativity. So playing with this thing of just doing a one-hand stick and then stepping through it at the right moment. So you've got to time it right, and then you step through and up. So something I was exploring is turning with bell spins. So if you do this transition, but then you do a 180 as you're doing that throw, so then like this, so then I'm catching it on my other stick, so I'm throwing from my right but catching my left, and then I can go do another 180. Back to facing the same way again. So yeah, that feels most natural, like throwing from the stick that's closest to this side and then catching with the other stick because it's then closest to that side afterwards. But you could also try playing with catching with the same stick. So it's like the non-native hand reaching across. Or you could try throwing from this hand. Yeah, and a combination of which hand you throw and which hand you catch with, basically. That's what I'm saying. So there, that was throwing with the left and catching with the left. So you could do throwing with the left and catching with the right, but that's kind of tricky. You have to like reach across with the right. and those are ones where it changes direction. So it should be possible to do ones where you stay spinning in the same direction as well. So something like this, then I'm thinking like it comes up here and you replace this stick here and then come down here. Let's see if we can get that to work. Nice, yeah, I got one. So it's essentially like the one where it's doing like a no beat stick transfer, like that, but because you're turning, it makes it the transfer a bit different. Rather than like traveling across from one stick to the other like this, it's like you're switching to the other stick up here. And yeah, you have to like, you know, if the stick is in here and I try and put my other stick there, it's not really going to work if this stick's already here. You could potentially like place it above and then remove that stick, but it's probably better to just do it as kind of a throw, so you're removing one stick and then putting the other stick in quickly. And then I imagine you could do the same direction but not as a no beat, as like with an extra half spin. That seemed to work. I haven't played with these very much, but something that's worth exploring is trying to do bell spins like with a stick flip. So if you flip it so that it's like that, and then trying to do it with kind of the other end of the stick, so it's a bit more awkward, but with practice you can do all the same kind of bell spin stuff that you could do normally. And then you can play with like flipping between ends, so it can be like this and then flip. So it can be like this and then flip to the other side. So it can be like this and then flip, and then still doing it with the other end. Here's an idea for one that I haven't managed to properly get yet, but you're doing a bell spin behind your arm here, and then from there doing a behind the back blind throw and trying to catch it on the other side. Okay. And you're trying to catch it over here. I touched my stick, but I didn't quite manage to catch it into another bell spin. Another thing that could be good to explore more is transitions between bell spins and traps. So for example, if I'm doing this one, then I can catch in that trap there, or there's that. So in slow motion, so it's coming here and then trapping there, and then you can continue that momentum going, if you like, to into like a roll to get to another trap, or whatever you like. I guess kind of a different thing, but you can also do bell spins on this end of the stick, so you've got your hands like up by your shoulder. So then that would mean you can go from this trap here directly into this.